It wasn't until the early hours of this morning that Trump crossed the threshold of 270 Electoral College votes. But it was a decisive win after a very divisive campaign. Trump secured 279 electoral votes. Clinton got just 218. Trump swept every battleground state, including states not won by Republicans in decades. Nearly 120 million Americans cast votes in the election, but neither candidate got more than 50%. Interestingly, Clinton won slightly more of the popular vote, harkening back to memories of the election in 2000, when Al Gore won the popular vote, but George Bush won the electoral votes. Clinton is the 5th U.S. presidential candidate to win the popular vote and lose the election. The president is scheduled to make a public statement at the White House later today. Reaction from the world has begun to flow in, one of the first from a man who was front and center in the election, Russian President Vladimir Putin.
And I would like to congratulate the American people with the end of the election cycle. I also want to congratulate Mr. Donald Trump with his victory in these elections. We have heard his electoral slogans when he was still a candidate. He spoke about resuming and restoring relations with Russia. We understand the way to that will be difficult, taking into account the current state of degradation of relations between Russia and the United States. As I have repeatedly said, this is not our fault that Russia-US relations are in this state. Russia is ready and wants to restore the full-fledged relations with the United States.
As you no doubt know, Putin featured prominently in debates between the two candidates and on the campaign trail. Clinton accused Trump of being a Putin puppet, and U.S. security officials believe the WikiLeaks email releases had Russian fingerprints. Mexico's peso is down to its lowest in 2 decades after election results last night. The Mexican Finance and Public Credit Secretary said in a press conference this morning that the last couple hours have remained steady. He added that, quote, Mexico is in a position of strength to handle this new environment, end quote. Thanks, Taylor. Coming up, BUTV10 has more updates on the 4 ballot questions in Massachusetts, some of which have been controversial. We'll have the latest. Welcome back to this edition of the Noon News. Turning back to the local scene, there were 4 major ballot questions in Massachusetts. Let's take a look at some of these results. Shifting our attention to question 2 and charter schools. Vote Massachusetts has turned down the approval of 12 new charter schools in the state each year. This was one of the more hotly contested referendums in this election cycle for Massachusetts. Question 2 was the first school choice related question in Massachusetts ballot history. And as we can see, 62% voted no on that question. Sports is up next, Bruins in action, and much more. Welcome back. A quick correction. The legalization of marijuana in Massachusetts will allow people over 21 to use recreational marijuana. Might have been a bit more controversial if it had been anyone under 21. Believe it or not, there is some sports to talk about today. Let's head right over to Alex Smith at the sports desk.
Thanks, Alex. It's nice to have a little bit of a break from the craziness of this election season. Well, it's been an exhausting election campaign season, and one that has taxed Americans mentally and physically, no matter which side you came down on.
That's right, and BUTV10's Brittany Finnegan found a great way to decompress with a unique exercise class that caters to mind, body, and soul.
That looks fantastic. I might just have to try it out.
Me too. That wraps up this edition of BUTV10 at noon. Thanks for joining us. I'm Caitlin Schiffer.
And I'm Alexis Ortiz. Have a great day, everyone.